Sumerians, Babylonians, all those people, they wrote on clay. That was their natural activity. And clay tablets, which have impressions of writing on, are pretty good. They're pretty stable. You can handle them. You can't play football with them, but they're pretty reliable.
A secret buried for 4,000 years, locked away beneath layers of history, wars, and floods, only to reveal an unimaginable ordeal recorded by a civilization long gone. What would make an entire city of 90,000 people seal themselves underground and never fully return? The answer lies in an extraordinary text describing a living affliction that swept the land, an invisible threat that left no physical destruction but claimed lives in mysterious ways. What awaited above was no natural disaster, but something far stranger, and its shocking aftermath challenges everything we understand about ancient history. Discovery of the Lagash Tablet. In November of 2021, a restoration team working in the basement of the Iraq Museum in Baghdad opened a wooden crate that had been sealed for over 50 years. Inside were 11 clay tablets from the ancient city of Lagash, known in modern terms as Tel al-Hiba. 10 of these were ordinary administrative records, grain counts, labor assignments, and temple supplies. But one tablet was different. It was larger, thicker, covered with dense text in 3 columns on both sides. This unusual tablet immediately caught the attention of conservators and epigraphists, as salt crust was carefully removed. The first column revealed not economic details, but a narrative. When Iraqi expert Ali al-Hashimi began translating, he discovered something extraordinary. The tablet described a mass relocation of people underground, 90,000 of them. This was a number far too large for typical administrative records and suggested a unique event. The tablet used the term Uji Shushiishi, meaning an organized gathering for relocation, and specified this vast population moving below the surface. The second column explained the reason for this evacuation, describing what awaited above after massive stone doors were sealed from the inside. Little did the translators know, the third column, still heavily encrusted and challenging to read, would reveal what truly haunted the surface and why most who left underground never returned. What made this tablet so exceptional was not just its content, but the precision of its language. Unlike mythological or ritual texts, this was a detailed report, more like a military operation record documenting an event no one had seen before. The narrative hinted at a survival plan, but raised many questions. What exactly was the threat? How was this evacuation executed on such a scale? The answers were buried in the clay and centuries of silence. The historical backdrop adds weight to this finding. Lagash was a significant Sumerian urban center around 2500 BCE, a city flourishing with political and religious activity. The tablet was excavated in 1968, but remained stored during decades of upheaval, wars, looting, and even flooding. This piece of history had waded through turbulent modern times just to tell its story now. This discovery challenges everything we assume about ancient knowledge and crisis management. The tablet suggests an advanced understanding of logistic and disaster preparedness with specific numbers, provisions, and infrastructure. Its very existence invites us to rethink how civilizations dealt with unknown and grave dangers. As al-Hashimi's translation progressed, the realization deepened that this was no ordinary evacuation. The story held a chilling secret. Something alive and deadly had descended from above, triggering the flight underground. The mystery wrapped in these clay tablets was only just beginning to unfold, promising revelations that would shake the foundations of ancient history. The narrative that began with a simple excavation and a sealed crate would soon lead us into the heart of a catastrophe unlike any other, recorded with chilling accuracy by a civilization 4,000 years ago. Transitioning from the tablet's discovery, the next part reveals what that great affliction descending from above really was, and why no walls were broken, yet entire cities emptied. The Great Affliction, descending. The second column of the tablet introduces a phrase never before seen in Sumerian texts, a great affliction descending from above. This affliction wasn't nature, storm, flood, or celestial event. It was described as alive, a living force classified by the same determinative used for humans, animals, and gods. What this affliction was remains unnamed, but its presence was unmistakably terrifying. The text describes the affliction moving not by walking but by flying or hovering, sweeping across the land in waves. Its approach caused a great wailing roar that unsettled animals and silenced children alike. Unlike an army or natural disaster that destroys walls and buildings, this force emptied cities by driving people away mere moments before it arrived. The terrifying power lay in its method of causing death. It extracted life from people without visible injury. Men, women, and children died standing, sitting, or mid-step, their bodies intact but their breath gone, a force cruelly invisible and utterly final. This silent death baffled the scribe, who recorded it using only the language available to a Bronze Age observer facing something beyond his understanding. Rather than a traditional attack, this affliction's mere presence was enough to cause mass evacuation. The tablet's use of a verb meaning death by external force highlights the unnatural and unseen nature of this death. Populations did not wait for destruction. They fled, prompted by warning watchers stationed in elevated positions known as those who see first. This phenomenon stirred panic and desperation, initiating a response unlike any documented in other texts. The affliction's sound, the great wailing roar, echoed over 3 days in cycles, affecting the region repeatedly. Survivors described it as an overwhelming presence that could not be fought or escaped by normal means. What made this affliction so frightening was not physical violence, but an unseen force that drained life itself. It didn't burn or drown victims. Rather, it stole their breath, their very essence. The tablet's careful and clinical documentation hints at an event so unprecedented it defied existing knowledge and vocabulary. The quiet devastation caused by this hovering force reshaped the lives of tens of thousands, forcing the population underground to survive. The affliction would alter the course of an entire civilization and leave marks none would forget, though few would record. As the affliction's deadly sweep pushed people below ground, the tablet shifts focus to the immense logistical effort behind this evacuation, revealing how an entire city prepared and moved swiftly before the threat became lethal. Underground evacuation logistics. The tablet's first column reads like a detailed command center report. Following a warning from scouts at Eridu, those who see first, Lagash's leaders quickly organized an evacuation that was both massive and methodically planned. The population was counted and assigned to specific groups in an underground shelter network carefully designed long before the crisis. This evacuation unfolded in 3 distinct phases. The initial phase, called Shudu, was essentially a census. Every household was accounted for, every family grouped, and every group assigned to a designated underground chamber. The glyph used translates to sealed house beneath the earth, which describes purpose-built subterranean dwellings, not natural caves. Next came the provisioning phase, Ga Ba Ankur. Grain, water, livestock, oil, seed, and bronze tools were carefully transported underground before the people descended. The record specifies staggering quantities, 14 goror of barley per family, equating to millions of liters of grain, enough to sustain the population for more than a year. This level of foresight points to pre-existing infrastructure and planning. The final phase, Igalba an Dub, was the sealing of great stone doors. 17 entrances across the Lagash region were barred from the inside by stone slabs designed to roll into place, great stone mouths that prevented anything from following the residents underground. The entranceways were engineered to be secured exclusively from the interior, cutting off all surface access. This was not a hastily assembled refuge. It was a complex, organized subterranean habitat equipped with provisions, livestock, and tools prepared against a threat more devastating than anyone had seen. The question lingers, was this defensive network built over generations or assembled rapidly in response to an immediate warning? Intriguingly, the tablet implies this underground system was not used for the first time. The infrastructure appears to have been maintained for multiple generations, suggesting ancient people anticipated the return of a recurring menace. Yet the specific event inflicted a trauma unlike any before. The precision of this evacuation reads more like military logistics than myth. Families were counted, grouped, and relocated with attention to detail that few modern disasters match. The scale of this operation highlights the gravity of the danger above and the desperate hope buried beneath the earth. As the population sealed themselves in their subterranean refuge, watchers kept vigil through ventilation shafts, aware that what waited above was far from over. The story now turns to their observations and the eerie silence that settled above during those dark days underground. Transitioning from the vast underground preparation, we move into the experience of those trapped beneath, listening and watching as a changed world waited quietly on the surface. Life beneath the earth. The tablet paints a vivid picture of those who had taken refuge underground, watching the surface world through narrow ventilation shafts designed to bring in air and light. These shafts were small, just wide enough to glimpse fragments of the sky and listen to the faintest sounds above, but they formed a fragile connection to a world turned hostile. For the first 3 days, survivors heard the great wailing roar grow louder and then fade in cycles, a haunting reminder of the affliction sweeping the land in repeated waves. From their underground vantage point, the watchers observed livestock left exposed on the surface perish suddenly and all at once. The text uses a phrase that translates as, "They fell as one," describing the animals' simultaneous deaths within mere hours. This rapid and uniform collapse of life underscored the lethal nature of the surface environment, transforming once familiar fields and pastures into silent graves. On the 4th day, the terrifying roar abruptly ceased, plunging the landscape into an unsettling silence. But the watchers argued strongly against opening the sealed stone doors. Through the ventilation shafts, they observed a chilling alteration in the sky's appearance. Light itself had changed, described poignantly as brightness mixed with wrongness, neither darkness nor eclipse, but an altered quality that deepened the mystery and danger above. This unnatural change affected the very atmosphere, corrupting the environment in a way that went beyond death itself. The air, the light, and the land had been transformed, making the surface not only fatal, but unrecognizable. The watchers recommended waiting patiently, a period the tablet calls 3 months, during which the 90,000 survivors endured life underground, rationing grain and water carefully and coping with the echo of their own whispered fears. Isolation was extreme. The weight of silence pressed on the underground chambers as people faced an uncertain future. Without contact with the surface world, days stretched into weeks, and weeks into months, marked only by the sound of breathing and the clatter of stone doors that barred their exit. This forced seclusion was a test of endurance and humanity that few historical records have captured with such intimate detail. The logistical precision of this wait is remarkable, showing a society organized enough to plan not only the evacuation, but also survival in an enforced exile. The people underground relied on stored provisions, millions of liters of grain and supplies carefully counted and distributed, and on the hope that the danger above would pass. The watchers' recordings reveal a blend of despair, vigilance, and suspended time as conditions above slowly altered. The tablet's narration shifts between cold administration and deeply human experience, especially when those below face the anxiety of what lies above. They were trapped between fear and necessity, unable to explore the world they once knew, while the lethal conditions outside remained a terrible unknown. Their survival was contingent not only on physical resources, but on the resilience to endure an invisible enemy. As those underground kept watch, the mystery hardened. The surface remained deadly, and the reasons for their isolation grew clearer only as the days passed. The next section of the tablet reveals attempts to return, desperate missions into a world that had been transformed into a toxic and hostile ruin. Moving from the long, fearful wait underground, the narrative shifts to the courageous expeditions that tested the dangers above the surface, and the severe consequences faced by those who ventured into the unknown. Attempts to return to the surface. After 3 months of waiting in sealed chambers, the tablet describes the cautious hope that flickered as a select group of 7 men prepared to ascend. Called the Knowing-Eyed Men, these specialists were trained scouts sent to assess if it was safe to return to the surface. Their journey up the narrow shafts was filled with tension, each step a fragile balance between hope and dread. When the men reached the surface, they found a landscape drenched not in fire, but in ash, not scorched, but blanketed by a fine, luminous dust that glistened eerily under a strangely altered sky. This dust that shines covered every structure, tree, and even the rivers, which had turned the color of copper. Silence dominated the scene. No birds sang, no insects stirred, and an overwhelming stillness replaced life's usual sounds. The change was not only environmental, but toxic. Within hours, 3 of the men became violently ill with symptoms that included burning skin where exposed, vomiting, rapid weakening, and confusion. The 4 who remained healthy struggled to carry their companions back underground, sealing the doors behind them once again. This grim pattern repeated itself twice more in the following months, with every expedition ending in sickness and death. The tablet details the terrifying progress of the affliction. 2 men died within days of their expedition, and 1 survivor lost his vision, a grim testament to the severity of the contamination. These symptoms, skin burns, gastrointestinal distress, rapid systemic failure, and blindness, are strikingly consistent with what modern medicine recognizes as acute radiation poisoning. This level of specificity astonishes, given the tablet's ancient origin. The text speaks of the surface as the territory of the affliction, no longer merely occupied by a living threat, but transformed into a lethal environment. The air, land, and water became contaminated with the luminous dust, which may have been radioactive fallout, persisting as an invisible threat even after the initial menace had dissipated. Contact with this toxic residue led to rapid deterioration unmatched by any known disease in Sumerian medical texts. With fewer volunteers willing to risk the journey, the underground population recognized the permanence of their exile. The tablet records how they expanded their subterranean network, connecting with other systems and adapting their agriculture to underground water sources, anticipating a multi-generational existence beneath the Earth's surface. It was a transformation of society born from survival. These haunting accounts reveal a civilization facing an unimaginable crisis with courage and resolve, struggling to make sense of a catastrophe that changed their world forever. As the efforts to reclaim the surface failed repeatedly, the tablet stands as a record of endurance and loss, of a people sealed away by forces no longer visible but ever deadly. The horrors encountered on the surface raise profound questions that extend beyond ancient history into the realms of science and mystery. The final section of the tablet and the discussions it has provoked invite us to confront these unsettling possibilities and the silence that followed. Implications and mystery. Unfolded. The symptoms described on the Lagash tablet, skin burns, vomiting, rapid weakening, blindness, and death within days, closely resemble acute radiation sickness as understood in modern medicine. This interpretation is often linked to striking claims about early catastrophic exposure. The luminous dust described as covering everything is interpreted by some as radioactive fallout, consisting of particles carrying isotopes that continue emitting harmful radiation. Such a phenomenon would be consistent with long-lasting contamination effects known from modern nuclear events. The tablet also describes environmental changes, including altered light described as brightness with wrongness, which some interpret as atmospheric ionization. Copper-colored water is also mentioned and has been compared to oxidation effects in sediments exposed to intense energy sources. Despite these interpretations, no mainstream scholar has publicly endorsed the radiation hypothesis. The transliteration remains circulated among a small number of researchers but has not been formally published due to its controversial implications. The tablet itself offers no explanation for the cause of the event, instead focusing on symptoms, survival, and environmental collapse. Its neutral tone suggests a record of observation rather than interpretation. Reports suggest that the Iraqi State Board of Antiquities restricted access to the tablet, classifying it as protected heritage, requiring approval for further study. Some materials were reportedly removed from researcher devices, limiting public analysis. This has led to ongoing questions about what could produce radiation in ancient times, whether natural or unknown catastrophic events, and whether early civilizations possessed knowledge of protective underground shelters that suggest repeated cycles of disaster and survival. Ultimately, the tablet stands as a disputed artifact at the intersection of archaeology and interpretation. Some view it as evidence of an unknown ancient catastrophe, while others consider it symbolic or exaggerated narrative tradition. Either way, it continues to provoke debate about the limits of historical understanding. In the end, the tablet endures as a fragment of the past preserved through time, whether read as literal record or metaphor. It challenges modern assumptions about the scope of ancient knowledge and the fragility of human memory. It invites continued investigation across disciplines, including archaeology, geology, and history, while also raising questions about how much of early civilization remains undiscovered beneath modern understanding. The mystery remains open to interpretation and debate among scholars and enthusiasts alike as new findings emerge over time, encouraging careful study and balanced interpretation of ancient texts and archaeological evidence moving forward carefully. The Lagash tablet reveals a story of survival, mystery, and a catastrophe that defies modern explanation. It challenges us to rethink history, truth, and the secrets buried beneath our feet. If this journey into ancient mysteries intrigued you, please like and subscribe for more explorations of the past's untold stories. Your curiosity keeps these discoveries alive.